My dear friends, let's begin by asking a very simple question. What does it truly mean to be bothered by someone? Is it not, at its core, an interaction between your expectations and their behavior? You see, most of us carry around an invisible rulebook, a list of shoulds and oughts, that we silently impose on the world. And when someone violates this script, we feel wronged, as if the universe owes us compliance. But let me suggest something radical. What if there's no rule book? What if people are simply doing the best they can, based on their own understanding and limitations? When you feel anger rising, pause and notice its source. Is it truly about the other person? Or is it about you, your need to control, your fear of losing status, or your inability to let go? Anger is often a signal that we are resisting what is. Let me share with you an image of a tree in the wind. The wind may blow fiercely, yet the tree does not argue with it. It bends, it sways, it allows the wind to pass. And so, too, can we learn to bend with the winds of human behavior, rather than stiffening ourselves against it. Imagine someone insults you. Your initial impulse might be to defend yourself, to retaliate. But pause for a moment and ask who is being insulted. What is this self that feels so wounded? When you look deeply, you'll find that this self is little more than a story, a collection of ideas and memories that you've come to identify with. And if this story is merely a construct, why take the insult so seriously? A shadow cannot be harmed by words, nor can the sky be cut by a knife. When you realize this, you will begin to laugh not in mockery, but in liberation. Now, let's turn to the people who trouble you. The rude colleague, the critical parent, the impatient stranger, they are all teachers, each one holding up a mirror to your inner world. Instead of reacting, ask yourself, what is this moment showing me about myself? Is it pride, insecurity, or perhaps an unmet need for validation? In this way, every irritation becomes an opportunity for self-discovery. And what of compassion? To understand why someone acts as they do is to soften the edges of your anger. A person who lashes out is often carrying a burden you cannot see. By seeing their pain, their ignorance, or their fear, you replace judgment with empathy. Finally, let me remind you the world is not here to please you. It is here to teach you, to challenge you, and to help you grow. To be unbothered by others is not to withdraw or become indifferent. It is to engage with the world from a place of openness and curiosity, rather than resistance and demand. So the next time someone vexes you, remember they are not the wind, they are not the storm. They are simply passing clouds moving across the vast sky of your being. And you, my friend, are the sky untouched, unshaken, infinite. Understanding the nature of projection is essential for navigating the complexities of human relationships and emotional reactions. At its core, projection is a psychological mechanism where individuals unconsciously attribute their own thoughts, feelings, or traits to someone else. It often occurs when we are unable or unwilling to confront certain aspects of ourselves. This phenomenon is deeply tied to our emotions, especially anger and frustration, which frequently arise not because of external events or other people's behavior, but because of unresolved conflicts within ourselves. Projection can significantly impact our interactions with others and the way we perceive the world around us. For instance, have you ever found yourself irritated by someone's behavior, only to later realize that you exhibit similar traits? This is projection at work. Instead of acknowledging these traits in ourselves, we displace them onto others, making it easier to criticize or judge without facing uncomfortable truths. For example, if you feel someone is being selfish, it could be a reflection of your own tendencies towards selfishness that you have yet to accept or address. The root of projection lies in the ego and the human desire to protect one's self-image. We all have an idealized version of ourselves, a persona we strive to uphold in the eyes of the world and within our own minds. When aspects of our personality or behavior contradict this ideal, it creates an inner conflict. Rather than deal with this cognitive dissonance, the mind projects these qualities onto others. This allows us to maintain our self-image while avoiding self-reflection or accountability. One way to truly understand projection is to observe how our triggers operate. A trigger is an emotional reaction that feels disproportionate to the situation. For example, if someone's lateness infuriates you, the intensity of your anger may have little to do with the act of being late. Instead, it might stem from a deeper insecurity about being disrespected or a personal struggle with control and expectations. Recognizing that these triggers originate within you, not in the other person, is the first step in dissolving them. Projection also has a profound impact on relationships. It distorts communication and creates unnecessary conflict. When you project your feelings onto someone else, you fail to see them for who they truly are. Instead, you interact with a version of them that exists only in your mind, shaped by your insecurities, fears, and biases. For example, if you assume a friend is upset with you because of their quiet demeanor, it might not reflect their actual state, but rather your own fear of rejection or abandonment. To break free from the cycle of projection, self-awareness is crucial. It requires a willingness to pause and examine your emotional reactions. Ask yourself, why does this situation or person bother me so much? What am I feeling, and does it have more to do with them or with me? This level of introspection can be uncomfortable, as it forces you to confront parts of yourself you may not like. However, it is also liberating, as it frees you from the grip of unconscious patterns. Another important aspect of overcoming projection is self-acceptance. The more you accept your self-flaws, and all the less you feel the need to project. When you are at peace with who you are, you stop seeing others as mirrors reflecting your insecurities. Instead, you can engage with them authentically, appreciating their individuality without the filter of your own unresolved issues. Projection is often closely tied to the concept of judgment. When we judge others harshly, it is often a reflection of how we judge ourselves. For instance, if you criticize someone for being lazy, it might be because you fear laziness within yourself or struggle with guilt over not meeting your own standards. By recognizing this link, you can use judgment as a tool for self-awareness. Instead of asking, what's wrong with the mask, what does this reveal about me? Empathy also plays a key role in dissolving projection. When you approach others with empathy, you step outside your own perspective and attempt to understand their experiences and motivations. This shift in focus allows you to see them more clearly, reducing the likelihood of projecting your feelings onto them. Empathy transforms interactions from adversarial to cooperative, fostering deeper connections and mutual understanding. It's also important to note that projection is not inherently negative. It is a natural psychological process that everyone experiences to some degree. The goal is not to eliminate projection entirely, but to become aware of when it is happening and why. This awareness can transform projection from a source of conflict into an opportunity for personal growth. In the context of anger and frustration, understanding projection helps you take back control of your emotional state. When you realize that your anger often has more to do with your internal world than external circumstances, you stop feeling like a victim of other people's behavior. This shift empowers you to respond rather than react, cultivating a sense of calm and resilience in the face of challenges. Ultimately, understanding projection is about reclaiming responsibility for your own emotional well-being. It is a path toward greater self-awareness, self-acceptance, and emotional freedom. By recognizing how projection operates in your life, you can transform your relationships, reduce unnecessary conflict, and navigate the world with greater clarity and peace. The next time someone irritates you or stirs anger within you, pause and reflect, what is this moment revealing about me? In doing so, you will find that the answers lie not in changing others, but in understanding yourself. Detaching from the ego is a transformative process that helps you free yourself from unnecessary anger, frustration, and emotional disturbances caused by other people. The ego, often misunderstood, is the false sense of self that thrives on separation, control, and validation. It is the part of you that says, I am my achievements, my possessions, my beliefs, and my status. When you live through the lens of the ego, every interaction becomes a potential threat to your identity, and you feel compelled to defend yourself against perceived slights or challenges. The ego feeds on comparison and judgment. It constantly seeks validation from others, measuring self-worth based on external approval. When someone criticizes you, the ego reacts defensively, interpreting their words as an attack on your identity. This is why detaching from the ego is essential for not getting angry or bothered by people. Once you recognize that the ego is not your true self but a construct of the mind, you can begin to step back and observe your emotional reactions instead of being consumed by them. Detaching from the ego doesn't mean suppressing your feelings or becoming indifferent to the world. It means shifting your perspective from one of attachment to one of observation. For instance, when someone insults you, the ego feels wounded because it ties your worth to what others think of you. However, when you detach from the ego, you see the insult for what it is, an expression of the other person's perspective or emotional state, not a reflection of your value. A significant aspect of ego detachment involves letting go of the need to always be right. The ego thrives on winning arguments, proving superiority, and maintaining a flawless self-image. But this attachment to being right creates tension and conflict, making you more susceptible to anger and frustration. When you detach, you realize that being at peace is far more valuable than being right. You can step back from disputes and allow others to hold their opinions without feeling the need to defend your own. Another way the ego creates problems is through personalization. It makes you believe that other people's actions are about you when, in reality, they are a reflection of their own experiences, beliefs, and emotions. For example, if someone is rude or dismissive, the ego takes it personally, interpreting their behavior as an attack. When you detach, you understand that their actions have little to do with you and everything to do with their internal struggles. Practicing mindfulness is one of the most effective tools for detaching from the ego. Mindfulness helps you observe your thoughts and emotions without judgment, allowing you to recognize when the ego is in control. When you feel anger or frustration rising, pause and ask yourself, who is angry? Who feels threatened? This question often reveals that it is the ego reacting, not your true self. By detaching from the ego, you stop identifying with its endless demands for validation, control, and superiority. This detachment gives you freedom to respond calmly instead of reacting impulsively, freedom to let go of grudges, and freedom to live authentically. It allows you to see others without the filter of judgment or comparison, fostering deeper connections and greater inner peace. Seeing people as they are is a powerful practice that can drastically reduce anger, frustration, and conflict in your interactions. Most of the time, we don't truly see people for who they are. Instead, we view them through the lens of our expectations, assumptions, and personal biases. These filters distort reality and create emotional turbulence when others fail to meet our imagined version of them. By learning to see people as they are, you can let go of these unrealistic expectations and embrace a more peaceful, compassionate perspective. One of the main reasons we get angry or bothered by others is because we expect them to behave in ways that align with our values, beliefs, or preferences. When someone acts in a way that contradicts these expectations, we feel hurt, disrespected, or frustrated. However, these reactions stem from our attachment to an idealized version of how people should be, rather than accepting how they actually are. Recognizing this is the first step in freeing yourself from unnecessary emotional distress. To see people as they are, you must first acknowledge that everyone is shaped by their own unique experiences, upbringing, and challenges. Each person's behavior is influenced by factors that you may not fully understand or even be aware of. For example, someone's rudeness or impatience may not be a reflection of who they are at their core, but a result of stress, pain, or struggles they are dealing with in their life. When you remind yourself that people's actions are often a result of their circumstances, you can approach them with greater understanding and empathy. Another key aspect of this practice is letting go of judgment. When you judge someone's actions or character, you place them into categories based on your own subjective perceptions. These judgments create distance and prevent you from truly connecting with the person in front of you. For instance, if someone makes a mistake or behaves poorly, you might label them as careless or selfish. But when you let go of judgment, you can instead recognize that they, like you, are human, imperfect, learning and evolving. Seeing people as they are also involves accepting their limitations. Not everyone will share your values, skills, or emotional maturity. And that's okay. Expecting others to behave exactly as you would is a surefire way to invite frustration. Instead, try to accept that everyone is on their own journey, progressing at their own pace. This acceptance allows you to interact with others without imposing your own standards on them. Another important component is mindfulness. When you interact with someone, pay attention to what they are actually saying or doing in the present moment, rather than projecting your assumptions onto them. Mindfulness helps you observe without attaching meaning or emotion to their behavior, allowing you to respond more calmly and thoughtfully. By seeing people as they are, you also give yourself the freedom to release resentment. Resentment often arises from holding on to expectations that were never met. When you accept people for who they are, you stop expecting them to fulfill roles or meet standards they were never capable of meeting. This creates space for genuine connection and understanding, free from the burden of unmet expectations. Ultimately, seeing people as they are is about embracing reality instead of resisting it. It's about recognizing the humanity in everyone, including yourself, and allowing others to be their authentic selves without the pressure of judgment or expectation. This shift in perspective not only reduces anger and frustration, but also fosters compassion, patience, and inner peace. Understanding life as a mirror is a profound concept that can transform how you perceive the world and handle your emotions, particularly anger and frustration. The idea suggests that the people, situations, and experiences you encounter in life reflect your inner world. In other words, what you see in others is often a projection of your thoughts, feelings, and unresolved issues. By viewing life as a mirror, you can shift your focus from blaming external circumstances to understanding yourself on a deeper level. When you recognize life as a mirror, you realize that the things that irritate or anger you about others are often reflections of traits, fears, or insecurities within yourself. For instance, if you find yourself annoyed by someone's arrogance, it might be worth asking whether you have unresolved feelings about your own confidence or how you come across to others. This doesn't mean that the other person's behavior is justified or acceptable, but it does mean that your emotional reaction is a signal pointing inward. This concept also applies to positive qualities you admire in others. If you deeply respect someone's kindness or resilience, it often reflects qualities within you that you either possess or aspire to cultivate. Life acts as a mirror to show you both what you value and what you need to work on. Viewing life as a mirror can significantly reduce anger and frustration because it shifts the focus away from others and back onto your own growth. When you encounter someone who triggers you, instead of immediately reacting, you can pause and ask, what is this situation teaching me about myself? This question turns every challenge into an opportunity for self-awareness. For example, if someone's criticism makes you defensive, it may reveal a deeper insecurity about not feeling good enough. By addressing this insecurity, you can free yourself from being overly affected by criticism in the future. The mirror principle is also deeply tied to emotional triggers. Triggers occur when something in your external environment activates a strong emotional reaction within you. These reactions are often disproportionate to the situation, indicating that the real issue lies within. By embracing the idea of life as a mirror, you can use these triggers as a guide to uncover and heal unresolved emotions or patterns. Instead of blaming others for making you feel a certain way, you can take responsibility for your emotions and explore their root causes. Life as a mirror encourages self-compassion as well. When you understand that everyone you meet is reflecting some part of your inner world, you develop greater empathy, not only for yourself but also for others. You realize that their actions and behaviors are mirrors of their own internal struggles, just as yours are for you. This understanding fosters forgiveness, patience, and a sense of connection. In relationships, this perspective can be especially transformative. Instead of focusing on what the other person is doing wrong, you can ask how the dynamic reflects your own beliefs, fears, or expectations. This approach can resolve conflicts and deepen understanding, as it removes the tendency to blame and shifts the focus to personal accountability. By adopting the idea of life as a mirror, you learn to see every experience, positive or negative, as a reflection of your own journey. It becomes a tool for growth, self-discovery, and emotional balance. As you understand yourself more deeply, you naturally become less reactive to others, finding peace and clarity in even the most challenging situations. The power of non-resistance is a profound approach to life that can transform how you deal with anger, frustration, and difficult people. Non-resistance does not mean passivity or weakness. It means choosing to flow with life rather than fighting against it. It is about accepting situations and people as they are without letting your ego or emotions create unnecessary tension. This mindset allows you to handle challenges with grace, remain calm under pressure, and prevent others from disturbing your inner peace. When we resist a situation or behavior, we create internal conflict. Resistance stems from the ego, which wants to control everything and shape reality to its liking. For example, when someone behaves in a way you find offensive, your ego might immediately react with anger or frustration, thinking, "This shouldn't be happening." This resistance doesn't change the situation, it only intensifies your emotional turmoil. Non-resistance, on the other hand, invites you to observe the situation without attaching judgment or fighting against it. You allow the moment to unfold as it is, which naturally diffuses negative emotions. Non-resistance doesn't mean you have to agree with everything or accept harmful behavior. It simply means you don't let your energy get consumed by opposition. For instance, if someone is being rude, instead of resisting by arguing or getting angry, you can acknowledge their behavior without taking it personally. You respond calmly, staying in control of your emotions. This approach not only preserves your peace of mind, but also prevents the situation from escalating. One of the most powerful aspects of non-resistance is its ability to break cycles of negativity. Resistance often fuels conflict, as one person's reaction triggers another's, creating a loop of escalating tension. By choosing not to resist, you stop feeding this cycle. When someone criticizes you, for example, and you don't resist by defending yourself or retaliating, you take away their power to provoke you. This disarms the other person and often leads to a more constructive outcome. Non-resistance also helps you see life's challenges as opportunities for growth rather than obstacles to be fought against. When you resist a difficult situation, You close yourself off from the lessons it might teach you. However, when you approach it with acceptance, you open yourself to new perspectives and solutions. For example, if you face a setback at work, resisting it by blaming others or feeling frustrated only amplifies the problem. Embracing non-resistance allows you to focus on what can be learned or improved, turning the challenge into an opportunity for progress. Practicing mindfulness is essential to cultivating non-resistance. Mindfulness helps you stay present and observe your thoughts and emotions without being consumed by them. When you notice resistance arising, such as irritation or anger, you can pause and ask yourself, what am I resisting? Why am I reacting this way? This self-awareness creates space for you to choose a more peaceful response. Over time, this practice rewires your mind to approach situations with acceptance rather than opposition. Another key to non-resistance is understanding that life is always in motion and nothing is permanent. Situations and emotions, no matter how intense, are temporary. Resisting them only prolongs your discomfort, while accepting them allows them to pass naturally. For instance, if someone's behavior annoys you, resisting it by ruminating on how unfair or irritating it is only keeps the frustration alive. Accepting it as a fleeting moment in time helps you let go and move on. Non-resistance also fosters compassion. When you stop resisting others, you begin to see their actions as expressions of their own struggles rather than personal attacks. This shift in perspective allows you to approach people with greater understanding and patience, even when they behave poorly. You realize that their behavior often has more to do with their internal challenges than with you. The power of non-resistance lies in its ability to free you from the unnecessary emotional burdens created by opposition and control. By letting go of the need to resist, you align yourself with the flow of life, finding peace and clarity even in difficult situations. Non-resistance doesn't mean giving up. It means choosing a wiser, more harmonious way to engage with the world. As you practice this mindset, you'll notice that challenges become less overwhelming, people's actions affect you less, and your inner peace becomes unshakable. Compassion over conflict is a mindset that focuses on understanding, empathy, and kindness instead of confrontation, judgment, or hostility. In a world where disagreements and misunderstandings are common, the power of choosing compassion can dramatically change how we respond to others and, more importantly, how we feel in challenging situations. Instead of reacting with anger or frustration when conflicts arise, the practice of compassion encourages us to meet others with openness and understanding. This shift in approach not only leads to more peaceful interactions, but also fosters emotional growth and healing. Often, when conflicts arise, our first impulse is to defend ourselves, prove we are right, or win the argument. This is a natural reaction driven by the ego, which thrives on validation and control. However, engaging in conflict usually only intensifies the tension and prolongs the negative feelings. By shifting our focus to compassion, we take a step back from the ego's need to dominate and instead embrace the idea that every person has their own struggles and pain, which can often be the source of their behavior. Recognizing that others act out of their own fears, insecurities, or wounds helps us see them as human beings rather than adversaries. Compassion is an act of listening without judgment, offering understanding without expectation. When we choose compassion over conflict, we stop seeing the other person as an obstacle to overcome and start seeing them as someone who is just as vulnerable and human as we are. This shift allows us to respond with empathy rather than retaliation. Instead of reacting impulsively to someone's anger or harsh words, compassion encourages us to pause and ask, what might this person be going through? This question helps to de-escalate our own emotional responses and opens the door to a more constructive and peaceful interaction. Choosing compassion doesn't mean tolerating harmful behavior or accepting disrespect. It means approaching difficult situations with a sense of calm, understanding that conflict often arises from misunderstanding or emotional distress. For example, if someone is rude or dismissive, instead of immediately fighting back or harboring resentment, we can choose to respond with patience and kindness. In doing so, we might even disarm the situation and transform it into a moment of connection and mutual respect. Another powerful aspect of compassion over conflict is its ability to heal emotional wounds. Holding on to anger or resentment only weighs us down emotionally, causing internal turmoil. When we practice compassion, we let go of these negative emotions and create space for peace and healing. By forgiving others, not because they necessarily deserve it, but because we deserve peace, we free ourselves from the burden of resentment. Compassion allows us to release the need to be right and focus instead on what truly matters: connection, understanding, and love. Compassion also helps to break down barriers between us and others. In times of conflict, it's easy to fall into the trap of us versus them thinking, where we view ourselves as right and the other person as wrong. This division only deepens the conflict and makes it harder to find resolution. Compassion, on the other hand, dissolves these boundaries. It allows us to approach others with humility and openness, seeing their humanity rather than their faults. This creates a bridge of communication where both parties feel heard and valued, fostering mutual respect and understanding. When we prioritize compassion, we also inspire others to do the same. Compassion is contagious. When we offer kindness and understanding in the face of conflict, others are more likely to mirror that behavior. This creates a ripple effect, spreading peace and empathy in our communities and relationships. Choosing compassion not only improves our own emotional well-being, but also creates a more harmonious environment for everyone around us. In the end, the practice of compassion over conflict is a choice that brings about lasting change, both internally and externally. It shifts our focus from the external circumstances that trigger our anger to the internal emotional healing that fosters peace. By practicing compassion, we not only resolve conflicts more gracefully, but also build stronger, more authentic connections with others, leaving behind a trail of understanding, patience, and love.